So got it. Recording in progress. So thank you everybody for coming. This is our December PTA meeting. It's kind of crazy to think that we're already almost to winter break, but here we are. We're excited to welcome Shannon Breacher-Shea, am I saying it right? Breacher-Shea, who is going to talk about bicycle safety and bicycling to school. We also, of course, have Ms. Prin's update and assorted other updates that are coming, as well as a kind of a brief conversation about fundraising and what activities we are planning for the second half of the school year 2022. So with that, I'm going to, as always, turn it over to Ms. Prin to start with the
everyone, it's good to see you. Even though it's not in person, it's good to see your faces. I don't have a whole lot of updates, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have to the best that I can. I will tell you that I was asked to give a reminder about the grants for the teacher membership, and I did that in the staff bulletin. I did want to also share, you've gotten a lot of emails from me recently. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know when you get them, you're like, how many can we get in a day? But no sooner do I send you one that I get new information. It's like at the last minute, and I'd rather oversend it than not communicate something to you. Over the weekend, actually, I was contacted by the Office of Family Engagement. Stephanie Izzard is somebody that we work closely with, and she's been at our school many times. She had the opportunity to offer vaccination, Maryvale as a vaccination site. The only downside to it wasn't a quick turnaround. So we spoke over the weekend. I could talk to her Monday afternoon at 4 o'clock. She sent me the link for the sign up. So tomorrow, Wednesday, we are going to be a vaccination site for students. So you've gotten 2 reminders for me. There's a link. They are accepting like 5 appointments at each slot. They started the slots at 3:30, even though that's like right at the start of dismissal. But we're going to make it work because it's important. If we can make it easy for just even one family that wants to get the vaccine, we're going to do it. So we'll be having the vaccination site at our school tomorrow, beginning at 3:30, and it goes till 6:30. The parent must be with the child. You can't just send the child in, obviously. And then once they get the vaccination, they'll be asked to remain for 15 minutes before leaving. So I will be there tomorrow helping facilitate that for our families, anybody that wants to take part in it, and as well as a few other staff members. So you got several emails too, one last night and one today, reminder, just because I want to make sure families are aware of that opportunity. I did get a question about what snow days might look like for this year. And so I did some homework because I, like you, probably thought, well, we don't have snow days anymore because we can all do virtual. But that's not actually the case in the document that I reviewed and heard. If schools close because of snow, the schools will close. And then early release will be if we get to school and the snow starts and we got to get them home, that would be but 2.5 hours early. So it would be like any early release day. It's not really a half day, but it's 2.5 hours early. So it would be a 1:20 dismissal. The county does its very best. And in most cases for early dismissal, they meet that mark. They need to let families know by 11 a.m. So that decision for early release is made at 11. For a delayed opening, it's also 2.5 hours delayed. So I would imagine if we get a lot of snow, which is not predicted for this year, but if we got a lot of snow and had to move to some virtual learning to make, the end of the year calendar work, they probably would consider that. But at this time, it's not being considered. And finally, the only other update I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions after that, is that we have started some tutoring. Some of our teachers, some of our paraeducators have found the time and the energy and the need to support some of our students that have, are continuing to experience that learning loss from the pandemic. Most of them, we do have reading and math. The majority right now is a focus on math because the teachers and our data revealed that was a greater need. But this will be ongoing throughout the year. So we're running like 8-week sessions. Then we're going to look at the data and constantly revise who may get that opportunity. So we do some before school, some after school. We're trying to make it work the best we can. We're trying to do in-person versus virtual in the majority of cases, but we're working with families specifically to try and increase achievement and reduce that learning loss the best that we can. So we're excited about that. And other than that, I think moving to indoor lunch has been smooth because the weather is getting colder. It's sometimes when it's like at 50, it's just too windy and the kids are sitting outside and their stuff is blowing all over. We make the decision to come in, but man, they are champs. I will tell you today, there was an incident and it wasn't on our side. It was on Carl Sandburg's side. It was during lunch and recess, of course, because that's when things happen the most, or dismissal. There was a student that just needed an extra support from the Carl Sandburg side, and they were out back near the playground windows. And in order to give the students some privacy, I just shut the blinds back there, and we did start with indoor recess today. But as soon as the student was calm and taken care of from the Sandburg side, we moved to outdoor recess. It really only impacted one grade level. It was the first one, and it was for a very short time. You have the best children. They are understanding, they're kind. They were asking what would happen. And all I had to do was say, there's a student from Carl Sandburg that needs some extra support and we're just going to give them privacy. It was so heartwarming to see that every response, okay, they were fine with it. And I'm so proud and honored to be with your children every day. They never ever cease to amaze me with their kindness and support and acceptance and tolerance. So just want to share that, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
One question on the vaccines: early communications from MCPS about vaccine clinics, like I'm thinking like a month ago, said that they would also be offering Pfizer shots and boosters for adults. Is that going to be the case tomorrow at Maryvale, or is it only the pediatric ones?
Tomorrow is only pediatric.
Okay, that's fine.
But some of those other sites, I think on the email I sent underneath, because I got the email for our site, but then 5 minutes later, I got the weekend links for another site. So I sent them together in the email that went this morning. And I believe that can be for others. Okay. But the one at Maryvale tomorrow is for just students at elementary level. Okay.
And actually, Shannon, I'm putting you on the spot. I know you live in Lincoln Park. I posted it on the East Rockville Facebook page. Do you know if there's an equivalent Lincoln, just because for some people in Lincoln Park, it's just as close to get to Maryvale. I don't know if that's a way to spread the word to some of the kids that live there.
Yeah, there's no Facebook page equivalent.
Okay.
There is a Lincoln Park community group, but they are very active, but I think they were previous to COVID, very active like in person. I don't know how much they've been sharing information since COVID, since it's
okay. Well, if you know anybody in general who needs to get vaccinated, Maryvale tomorrow. So any other questions for Ms. Prin or issues you want to bring up? All right. So back to you, Shannon. So Shannon is our special guest tonight. And And she is here representing the Safe Routes to School program from the Rockville Bicycle Advisory Committee. So I asked her to say a few words about what that is and what they do. And then she'd like to hear feedback from any of you about biking safety and biking to school. And I will say, Shannon, one mother who couldn't make this sent me some of her thoughts that I can also vocalize for everybody to hear. But, you know, whether you do bike or think you might bike, or even, to be honest, bike, perhaps if, you know, I know some of you don't live in this immediate neighborhood, maybe bike to a different school, but thoughts around bike safety for biking to school. So Shannon, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. So I'm part of the Rockville Bicycle Advisory Committee, and Eric, I know Julie was actually the rep to RBAC for a very long time from the County Council. And we are a group of Rockville, mostly residents, a few people who live outside of Rockville, but used to be residents or are right on the edges and spend a lot of time in Rockville trying to make bicycling more accessible, more convenient, and safer for everyone in Rockville. And that includes everyone from young kids all the way up to retired folks. And the as they say in our bicycle advisory plan, bicycling should be accessible to all people in all places, in all situations in Rockville. And I'm sort of the family biking person because I have 2 little kids. And one thing that we've been trying to do is work with the Safe Routes to School coordinator for the county. So every county has a Safe Routes to School coordinator. Our Montgomery County one actually came from Baltimore, so he has really great urban cycling experience, which is, you know, very different depending on, you know, if you're in a very rural place or a more spread out suburban place than Rockville is, or that Montgomery County is. And so there's kind of 2 different parts we're looking at. We're looking at trying to get more bike education into the schools, whether that's a formal part of the curriculum. That's sort of our end goal. We're trying to work with Montgomery County schools right now on that. And as you may guess, it's a challenging process. So we would like to do a pilot somewhere. We talked to Maryvale, we didn't talk to Maryvale yet. We talked to Bell, where my kids go to school, and the PE teacher had some concerns, which we think we can resolve, except for integrated into the curriculum. So that's why we're talking to MoCo to see if we can, to MCPS, to see if we can get some flexibility in the curriculum. But if you think your school would be interested in a pilot program and like actually integrated into the PE school, for the PE program for bike safety, or would be interested in some after school activities based around bike safety, we would like to know that. And so we can communicate that to the Safe Routes to School person. And then the other half of that is sort of the infrastructure and the safety around the school itself. How we can make biking to school better for students, whether that's bike parking, whether that's making the street around the school safer, whether that's organizing biking school buses so that groups of people could bike together. And these are all things that have been done in other places. At Bell, when I brought this up, I didn't even ask about bike parking, and Mr. Alter, our principal, was like, oh, we need more racks. And I'm like, I can do that for you, and connected him with our bicycle and pedestrian coordinator for the city, which many people don't even know we have. And he said, oh yeah, we can get you racks. And so they're putting in a new rack to Bell, I think tomorrow. So if there's requests like that the city can help with, I'm a great liaison to come to, and I can talk to the bike and pedestrian coordinator to make sure those are met. In terms of infrastructure, we're looking at identifying sort of those pain points for people in terms of road safety, whether that's, you know, people parked on both sides of the road, or there's too much traffic, or there needs to be better crosswalks, and either making those things priorities for fulfilling as part of our Bikeway Master Plan, which is the big plan that looks at how do we improve bicycling in Rockville over the next 20 years or so, which we've been implementing already for the past 4 or 5 years, I think, and have a lot of it done already. And as well as expanding the Bikeway Master Plan, or expanding / integrating into our Vision Zero plan, which Vision Zero is the goal to have no serious injuries or deaths from transportation. And so we have that goal and we have a whole plan devoted to that. So by focusing on some of our youngest, most vulnerable riders, that helps us be able to identify those places that are either preventing people from biking or are keeping them from feeling safe while they're already doing so. So that's what I'm here for, to take input into both those areas, both the sort of the safety education as well as the physical infrastructure and the biking to school aspect of it. I'd really love to know, what are your thoughts? What are the barriers if you bike to school, if you don't bike to school but would like to, or if you do bike to school but you feel things are uncomfortable and things could be improved. And you can either drop them in chat or just speak up and I'll take notes.
If you all don't mind, I wouldn't mind asking the first question. So good to see you, Shannon. My son has just started learning how to ride a bike. Do you have any thoughts on kind of how you know when your child is, ready to go, say, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, on a bike to school, in terms of crosswalks and things like that?
I mean, it really depends on your like what that mile is or half a mile is, right? Like having to cross 355 is very different from having to cross a much more neighborhood street. My older son, we were biking to school until it was getting real cold, because we live about 2 miles from Bell. And now they've been taking the bus, but we expect to go back. And I felt like he was okay to bike to Bell. I live in Lincoln Park, across the street from the Lincoln Park Community Center. So we have to bike down Stone Street. We cross 355, we bike through Town Square. And he had already biked, to Town Square before. We had biked to, the swim center before. And we did a couple test runs, just to like 3 test runs before we started biking to school. So, if you're in a very residential area and your kid is comfortable on the bike, I would just go out on a Sunday afternoon and see how they do on the street. Are they good at following directions? That's a huge one. And do they have quick reaction times? If you say stop, will they stop? Will they stop at a stop sign? Will they stop? Are they good at kind of reading the road and paying attention to what's going on around them? Because that's really hard for a lot of little kids. So a lot of it's just going out, practicing on the types of roads you go on otherwise, and making that personal judgment for yourself. Was that helpful?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, great. I just saw we don't bike to school. My kindergarten takes the bus. Thanks for the information. Yeah, I recognize, especially in Maryvale, I know you get a lot of people from between the French immersion program and then other parts. Bell, like I said, I think we're the only people in our neighborhood who bike because it is a little rough, and it's not something that, it's not a route that most people would let their kids bike by themselves, certainly. Yeah, so a lot of schools are going to have families that biking to school is just not sort of practical, and we understand that, but we want the families who want to bike to school and find it valuable to be able to do so safely and comfortably.
I actually, my older son bikes a lot, and he's comfortable biking around our neighborhood, but because we live not in the Maryvale neighborhood, he probably would never bike to school, but I could picture that we would bike to things at the school together as a family, except for the fact that Norbeck in general is not great for, like, there's not a great way to cross Norbeck. And so I was wondering, does the city have any plan to make changes to make Norbeck easier to cross for bicyclists?
That is an excellent question, and I will go look that up into the Bikeway Master Plan, because I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, crossings are a huge issue, especially because I'm trying to think of Norbeck. Does it run parallel to the Millennium Trail? Because the Millennium Trail is a major, yeah, okay. The Millennium Trail is a major connection, and that's sort of, one of our keystones in our bicycle infrastructure. And so if people feel uncomfortable getting to it, that's a major issue. I will look up in the Bikeway Master Plan if they are looking at it. It doesn't address a lot of crossings though, so that's a really good question. I will communicate that to the, if it's not in the bikeway master plan, I'll communicate that to the bike and pedestrian coordinator and get back to you.
I guess this isn't in the boundaries of Rockville.
Yeah,
It's the next level up of school, but from getting from this Maryvale neighborhood to Wood, which is our middle school, either on bike or foot is impossible because of the crossing there, the bridge. That has no, it is a cars only bridge. I've seen people walking on it and it's scary. And so that, I know it's outside Rockville, but
sorry, which
that
bridge
is
is that?
affects our school population.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we work with the county too. The county has very ambitious biking goals.
I
so we
think
can-
that's still in Rockville. That's on Norbeck.
It's
So the
But
Millennium
once you
Trail,
past like Avery,
yeah.
that's not Rockville.
Oh, is it?
I think, I'm pretty sure it's.
Yeah, you're
county.
right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just past Avery. So the Millennium Trail turns on Goody. There's a bike path that continues up to Redgate Park, which is nice, but then it stops.
Right.
And if you want to get to Wood or where our holding school used to be, or anything beyond that to Safeway, I agree with Rebecca. You take your life in your hands. There's no walking, there's no biking. There's no way to get across that bridge except for in a car going 55 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Or
I
you
know-
would probably
I know
need
you're
to
talking about.
go on Baltimore.
That is true, but that's a roundabout way.
Yeah, but there is a bike trail along quite a bit of Baltimore.
Mhm.
They're actually renovating Baltimore to make it along all of Baltimore from, I think, First Street all the way to the Millennium Trail, or all the way to, Rock Creek Park.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that would be amazing if it crossed over Norbeck.
Yes.
There.
Mhm.
That's all really helpful feedback.
Another one, Shannon, I sent you the email, but there were two other mom who couldn't make it and bikes often to Maryvale. Just for everybody's benefit, one I wholeheartedly agree with. So Millennium Trail goes for that short period of time on First Street in the neighborhood where that's that dead end. It's the only part of the trail that you're actually on the road, but it's a dead end and it's not a lot of traffic. And then you, of course, turn to the right to go onto Norbeck, onto the dedicated path. But Maryvale's straight. And Maryvale Park is straight, the school is straight, David Skull Park homes are all straight. And if we could get a dedicated bike lane going straight, you would get 2 parks and a school. And not to mention all the residential in that area. I think that would be huge, especially since, as we all know, at pickup and drop off time in front of the school is sheer pandemonium, between the walkers, the drivers, the buses for 2 schools, because of course we have Carl Sandburg as well. So that, I don't know about the infrastructure and the size of the road or whatever, but I have biked that with my kids, and that's the part that I get nervous about as we go straight there. And then another,
I'm a very experienced biker, and that road is not fun. People
no, it's
go
not
very
it's not.
fast down that road.
Right. And it seems like there's a lot of bang for the buck with 2 parks and a school in what is that, like a half mile? I mean, it's a very short period of time of road that could be accessed by a lot of children. And then her other suggestion in the email, which I'm not sure how much power anybody has to do this, is she noted that she'll often bike on Crab, which can be pretty dicey with people parked on both sides, and the school buses all go down Crab. And she says, so sometimes they'll bike on the sidewalks with her 2 children. And of course, there's always that car that's parked over the sidewalk, like somebody in their own driveway, but parked over it. And she was wondering if there was anything the city could do to try and enforce not parking over the sidewalk. And I don't know, that's a little beyond the scope. And of course, those are one-offs, but that's legit, that if you're not feeling safe on the road and you take your kids on the sidewalk and then you still can't do the sidewalk, you're basically cutting off all avenues.
Yeah, it's a huge accessibility problem.
Yeah,
Also, the
well,
people parked on
yes.
both sides, I know, is one of the biggest problems when we bike to Bell, because people will park, temporarily to drop their kids off in either a no parking zone, or it's technically allowed, but it narrows the road very drastically, and then people coming off the corner are going in the middle of the road, basically right towards you. So yeah, I know that's a concern that is also in other schools as well. So that's, I think, you know, I don't know what can be done about it, but it's certainly worth bringing up to the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator, let them know. And part of that might be an education issue too, you know, educating people like, here's what you're doing when you park like that.
I will say, while we're shooting for the moon,
Yeah.
bike lanes on Baltimore would be great because that connects you Millennium Trail to the metro.
Yep.
And so we do the Millennium Trail a fair amount. And for us, it's a short distance, but we have to go on Baltimore to the Millennial Trail. And that's the only part we do on sidewalks because kids and all that. But that's, you know, kind of the artery of the neighborhood. And it would be great to have bike lane there because you can get Metro and Millennium Trail. And now that I'm learning all about the new, then you can connect onto Baltimore to go to Rock Creek. And before you know it, we can get everywhere by bike.
This has been, yes, this has been one of my bugbears that I have been harassing the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator because it is not in the bikeway master plan. And nobody has provided me a good reason as to why it is not in the bikeway master plan, because that part of Baltimore is really wide. It's much wider than the part they're putting a multi-use trail in. And there's not even that many people, you know, it's not like it's a ton of street parking. So yes, I've been harassing him to please look into that and to find if we can add it to that, because exactly as you said. So yes, I am on the case on that one.
Thank you.
Because I have the same concern. I was it doesn't affect you guys as much, but we are in the process of doing planning to improve North Stone Street, which is, or South Stone Street, sorry, South Stone Street, which is also not in the bikeway master plan, but we kind of made the case that it really needed to be addressed. And they're going to be presenting, I think, they're working with a consulting agency to do measurements and determine what would even be possible. But we're going to definitely push for bike lanes there because that's the route I take with my kids, and I would love for the bike lanes. So I know, like I said, that's not in Maryvale proper, but I'm sure that's a route that.
Yeah, no, totally.
So as an update. And any thoughts on bicycle education or what you think would be helpful? And this would be like, actually right now, MCPS does have a mention of bike education in their PE, but it's all sort of bookwork. It's not actually getting butts on bikes, which, you know, as anybody knows, trying to teach bike education via book is not nearly as effective when the kid's like, oh yes, you're supposed to stop at a stop sign, and then just go right through the stop sign when you actually have them on a bike. Because I didn't see it.
I don't know what the spring fling looks like, but is that something that could be incorporated into one of our outdoor activities?
That's one of the things we've been thinking about. So we would be open to. And when is that?
Well, so good question. We've traditionally had a spring fling, which COVID killed, and maybe brought back in a slightly altered format. But we are at this point talking about a pretty big event in the spring, likely outdoors. Who knows what COVID will look like. But that could be the type of thing maybe we could incorporate. I mean, I think that would be fun.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing that the Safe Routes to School person has done these kind of bike rodeos at before. So I know it is possible.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a question, I don't know how many of the kids in our school have bikes. I heard like a ad on the radio about some nonprofit that's, you know, taking your old bikes and donating them to kids. And are there things we can do to just connect our families to bikes?
Yes, there is. There's a terrific kids program. Oh, I'm so glad you asked, because this is something I think the city tries to get the word out, but doesn't get the word out as well as they would like to. Let me look it up and I'll drop it in the bikes Rockville. There are Rockville Bicycle, kind of a break off of the Rockville Bicycle Advisory Committee. It's a separate group called the Rockville Bike Hub. Organizes the city. Okay, so let me back up for a second. The city has done the Terrific Kids Award for a really long time. It's basically kids. You don't have to like prove an income level or anything like that, which is great. It's open to everybody. And oh yeah, March 4th, that's perfect then. basically you have to do 16 good deeds, and there's like a list, there's some kind of checklist, and you get a free bike from the city of Rockville. And they have a really cute ceremony at the city council that you don't have to come to, but it's really cute if people want to. And they give them a certificate, and then they go to where now the Rockville Bike Hub has taken this over. It used to be Bikes for the World, for anybody who's familiar with that group. The Rockville Bike Club has taken this over, and they take used bikes, but they fix them up really well, and they make sure every kid has a bike and a helmet. So these aren't like crappy used bikes. These are like really nicely restored bikes, and people who run it know what they're doing. So that is a fantastic program. We would love more people to participate. We have, as far as I know, tons of bikes to give away because we got a lot of donations. And yeah, it would be fantastic if more kids participate in it.
So is that the type?
I think it's usually 30 kids who participate across all of Rockville, and I know there's.
So is that the type of thing I can like put in our newsletter, kind of advertise that way?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Okay, terrific.
And I'll let the bike and pedestrian coordinator know that you are. That's something actually I should also. And there's even like a nice little video about it. And some of the kids who've received bikes have even marched in the Memorial Day parade with RBAC, which is super cute, and they're very excited about being able to be on the parade. So,
anything else on bikes? Miss Prin, do we have enough bike racks?
We do have enough bikes racks. They're not completely used, but they are being used. Some of our middle schoolers that ride their bike to get the bus from Maryvale, they even leave their bikes on the bus rack. And then we do have a few of our students do bike.
Okay.
And we have a few parents that bike up in the afternoon to get their kids to go home.
Fantastic.
So I don't know if it's necessarily it's a question that can be answered here, but how about bike sizing? Like I just struggle, like how do I know? Like I definitely could tell like my kid outgrew the one bike like totally, but then I got another one and it's kind of too big or he struggles with it. Is there a rule of thumb or a trick?
Yeah, there's some really great online guides, and I think one of my favorites, I'm assuming they have bike sizing information, is two-wheel tots. Unfortunately, some of the stuff they recommend are super expensive, but they do have really good recommendations and they have really good information. Two-wheeling tots, here it is. I'll drop it in the chat. But yeah, if you search like kids bike sizing or children bike sizing, something like that, there's a lot of really good information on children biking out there. I don't know like the rule of thumb. I remember looking it up when I bought my kid bike, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
Anything else?
Well, I am the family biking coordinator, so please let me know if you think of anything after the fact. If you have any questions about family biking, I've actually like written on this topic I'm also a parenting blogger and stuff. So, and also if you're interested in having, somebody come present on the advantages of biking and walking with kids, I have some background in that, in terms of like what it teaches kids and some of the advantages, and especially the academic advantages that it helps, especially kids with, ADHD and executive function issues.
Thank you so much, Shannon. We really appreciate you joining us. And if you're okay, if you don't mind putting your email address in the chat so that people can reach out to you, or of course you can go through me. Is that a hand raised, Melissa? Okay. Okay. It's two hands. Sorry. It's a different, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, Shannon. You're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting, or if you need to drop, I completely understand.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to move on. The next item on our agenda here is the fundraising update. Sandra could not make it, but she sent me the updates, so I'm just going to kind of read them off here. One is recent fundraising brought in addition to the $5,000 for the Cougar Cash Drive. Yay! We also earned $800 at Chipotle and 126 at Lido. So the verdict is in. Our kids like burritos better than pizza. I mean, 800, that was impressive. I think that's a new restaurant night total, win or record. The online book sale in Bonjour Books was was not quite as lucrative as maybe we wanted. But it was $165 for the online book fair and then $45 for Bonjour Books. So I did some quick math. That means over the past month, it's been about $1,100, $1,136 in fundraising, which is actually pretty great. So, you know, every little bit helps. And thank you, Rachel, if you're part of any of this. Other update she gave me, and Rachel, I'll let you talk after this, maybe you know, is we have these journals that I actually don't know a ton about that we had received that we will be putting up for sale on the website. They're journals about like childhood and for kids to write their thoughts along. So more on that coming. I actually don't know much about them, so I can't really answer questions. She's planning more restaurant nights for 2022. The clothing bin is unfortunately on hold. We actually earn money through clothing donations, but we have to place the new one, and she's still working on the location of that. And then I think the big update is she is planning an in-person book fair in the spring. So we just did the online one. Those of you who are at Maryvale pre-pandemic know that we, had an in-person book fair for Scholastic with Scholastic. Huge advantage. Yes, it's fundraising, but the huge advantage there is that the kids get to go in during the workday and I'm sorry, you can tell where my mind is during the school day, and buy books. And then it is open to parents at select dates and times. And because of COVID, we may need to do sign up geniuses, small groups sort of things, but so that we can go in person and buy the books as well. And it's also really fun for the kids. They love it. We will need volunteers to staff it. And there's been a request for that. So if any of you have a little capacity to maybe work at the book fair, we would really appreciate that. Yeah, there were so many people at Chipotle. I know, it was amazing. Melissa, I saw you there. $800 worth. So we can do Chipotle fundraisers every 6 months. So I think we'll be doing that again in 6 months. And I think also related to restaurant night, if you have suggestions of restaurants that maybe like other circles, other schools, other like churches or other people have used for restaurant night, I think Sandra's always looking for suggestions, or even if you know the owner of a restaurant who might be willing to partner, we're happy to do that. So Rachel, did I miss anything on fundraising? Great. Any questions on fundraising or suggestions? Okay. So moving on, just other business here. I'm going to reverse these. B, we're perpetually looking for communications and volunteers chair. So if you know anybody, please let us know. But A here is spring planning conversation. So Acacia, who's on, is in the midst of doing our budget for 2022. The school year of 2022, so like January through June. The first thing is at our next meeting in January, it's the 11th, I think. Oh, this is the old one. I updated the agenda. The second Tuesday in January, I think it's the 11th. We will be voting on that budget, and anybody who's a PTA member has a vote. So that's just a heads up. We will circulate it in advance for your review. But the bigger thing is, as we plan the budget, that also means doing some planning for activities that we'll be doing in 2022. And I think, none of us have a great crystal ball when it comes to this pandemic. But we are thinking that probably January and February are still going to be, not anything really in person. But hopefully as we get into the spring, combination of the pandemic easing and just our kids are vaccinated and all of that, we can begin to do some in-person events, even if they are outdoors. So the big ones we are going to put forward, hopefully some movie nights, and bring back science fair, which was always a hit. Chem has agreed to lead that up. That would be March at the earliest, March, maybe April, and maybe like on a Saturday if we need to capture daylight. But that's always fun for the kids, and something that we hope to bring back. And then also combining International Night and Spring Fling. So we used to do this huge Spring Fling, which was an enormous undertaking. And the woman who ran it is actually stepping down, so we don't have the capacity, but we were thinking we could kind of turn it into a big spring event and anchor it with international night. And it might not be night, it might be day, but that was my favorite activity. Cause I mean, just the diversity of cultures that we have at Maryvale is so impressive. And with that, we could do things like the silent auction. Rachel, I know you were probably going to be very involved in that. And some of the select favorites from Spring Fling. We have a ton of stuff. When COVID hit in last 2 Marches ago, they had started planning for the Spring Fling. So we have a lot of we have goodie bags and giveaways and all sorts of things that we were thinking if we kind of turned it into a big Saturday kind of festivity. So those are some of the things that we're hoping to do in the second half of the year, with the huge caveat, as always, of we'll see what happens with this pandemic. But fingers crossed we can do some stuff in person in the spring. So that's the end of our agenda. I have one more announcement. I'm sorry. Then I promise I'm going to open it up. And that is that we did select the t-shirt design winner. I am not going to tell you who, but it was a really, really great design. And Miss Prin will be announcing it over the loudspeaker to the students on Friday afternoon. And in addition, she'll put it in the Connect Ed, and I'll put it in the PTA newsletter. And we have, Acacia's putting $500 into the budget for next year. So we're going to print $500 worth of that new design, those new t-shirts, and sell them. And if we have to print more, we will. But we're kind of excited to have a new design. It's really, really impressive. We got so many submissions. We had a huge stack of submissions, and the artistic ability of the kids is very, very impressive. There are some really off the wall ones, but most of them are really cute and pretty on target. So that's the end of my talking. So I'm going to pause. Questions, comments, issues, things that anybody wants to address? All right. Well, looks like we get to end early. So as always, thank you very much for joining. Let me know if you have any questions or thoughts or anything, and happy holidays. We'll reconvene in January. Bye.
Bye.